Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who's ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste. And around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin.
Welcome back to My Healing is Your Healing. I'm your host, Celeste, and today we are diving into a season that you've probably lived through more times than you even realize, even if you've never had the words for it. This is what I like to call the quiet season. This is the in-between or almost a void. It is the slow chapter that you keep trying to skip, but you're not meant to skip it. It's that strange stretch of life that feels like everything stops moving, or everything almost feels like it's falling apart. And the people that you thought would be in your life suddenly aren't, or the plans that you were excited about collapse. And the universe kind of slams on the brakes so hard that you find yourself staring at the ceiling, thinking, okay, what the hell is happening right now? It feels like this detour or like a punishment. It's like the universe is putting you in this timeout that you never really asked for. But what if it's not a punishment? What if it's preparation for what's next? I call this the leveling up season. It is the quiet before your next expansion or before your next chapter. And honestly, it is this uncomfortable on purpose. This is the chapter where you're being forced to sit with the things that you've been trying to outrun, or that you've pushed down, or you've numbed yourself out or distracted yourself from in some way. This is where the real work actually happens, and it is not cute work. It is this gritty, I do not want to feel this work. And here's the metaphor that always winds up hitting me in this space, is that your life, or all of these paths that you're going to cross, your life isn't like on this circular pattern. You may feel like you're going in circles, but it's actually this massive spiral that you're going and following upwards, like a spiral staircase. It's like being on a hike and you think that you're lost or you're going in circles because you keep passing that same odd-shaped rock or, the tree with the broken branch. And you look at it and you think, man, seriously, this again? I must be doing something wrong. But you're not in the same spot, not even close. What you're seeing is that same landmark, but from a higher elevation. Last year, maybe you were looking at the roots. This year, maybe you're staring at the trunk. And then eventually, next year, maybe you're going to be looking at the branches. But then eventually, you'll be eye level with the top of the damn tree because you've spiraled upwards. And that is what growth actually looks like. It is not clean. It's not in a linear path, but it's this layered nuance. Every time that you meet the same pattern or the same wound that you've been dealing with, you meet it from a slightly different version of yourself, from a different height on the spiral. And life is kind of whispering to you, okay, what is the lesson this time around? What did you learn the last time around? And how do you get to that next level? And speaking of levels, I also like to think of this as a video game. Each chapter gives you clues and skills and challenges, these little tests to prepare you. But at the end of the chapter, at the end of the level, there's always a boss battle. And the boss is you. Or at least that next version of you, the version of you who has integrated the lessons that you've been learning, or broken the pattern, or upgraded her identity, and is finally ready for what she has been asking for, this next chapter. So when life gets suddenly quiet, or when people fall away, when your plans fall apart, and when everything in you wants to panic and say, what the heck is happening? It is because you have reached a new level in the game. And the universe is basically saying to you, before you meet the next version of yourself, you need to slow down enough so that you can hear her. And that's the part that we always try and skip. It's like this slow, crunchy, uncomfortable part The part where you actually have to sit and feel your feelings instead of just talking around them and making excuses for them. Where you have to sit with your disappointment or your grief, your loneliness, or your exhaustion. And trust me, I get it. I have tried to skip this chapter so many times. But every single quiet season that I've lived through, every forced pause, every breakdown, every midnight moment where I've been laying in bed holding back tears has been preparing me for something bigger. Every single one. And this time's no different. So I was invited onto this podcast the other day, and this conversation came up. And this is like a funny, painful, universal thing that we all do. We honestly believe that we're going to notice when like life's chapters shift or when things are about to change. We all think that we're going to see this header in the distance, chapter 12, 1 mile away. And we think that we'll be healed enough or self-aware enough or aligned enough to recognize that the page is about to turn. But that's never how my life has worked. Not once. Every single breakthrough that I've ever had, every expansion or level up moment has started the exact same way, with some kind of forced pause. And life rarely asks you gently. It will literally put you on your ass and sit you down and be like, baby, sit down. You're not ready yet. You still have a little bit more that you need to learn. And it feels like this punishment. It's like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Because you're being benched in this game that you desperately want to play in. So I want to tell you what that looked like for me this year, because man, this year humbled me in a way that I absolutely did not expect. 2025 came in all hot and said, sweetheart, it is time to rearrange everything that you know. It started off with a bunch of goals. I was going to get a Boston qualifier. I wanted it so badly, and I kept running into walls. I wasn't giving myself in to fully training. My energy was never there. I was scattered. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't sleeping right. And I was pushing, but I was never aligned with the goal. And then one of my closest friendships ended. And that is a kind of loss that shakes your foundation, somebody you thought was going to be with you for a while. And then this big one. I had to get a hysterectomy on Halloween, a day that already carries a lot of energy in itself. And then the universe was like, okay, and now you need to rest. My energy got tanked. My body just shut down. I sat on the couch for probably 2 weeks straight. I was so exhausted that I could barely keep my eyes open to watch trashy TV. I literally had to sit on my couch and do nothing else. And do you understand how violently uncomfortable that was for me? Like, I could not go to the gym. I couldn't run. I couldn't drive. I couldn't distract myself with plans or people or a performance of something. And I had to ask for help. It is way harder for me to ask for help than historically any long run that I've ever done. I can make my way through that. I needed friends to feed me, to stay overnight, and to take the day off of work to make sure that I was okay and not alone after surgery. And then, like that wasn't enough, all of these other dominoes started to fall. My Thanksgiving plans got flipped upside down. My birthday plans evaporated. My book launch, this project that I have been holding so close to my heart and my identity and almost like my magic, got thrown completely off its axis. And these friendships that I thought were stable weren't. And they all quietly fell away like leaves in the fall air. And suddenly my house was quiet. My life was quiet. And not in the, ooh, self-care kind of quiet. No. It is like echo quiet. The, oh no, I am alone with myself kind of quiet. And I was left alone by myself. Not for the first time, but for the 1,000th time. And here is the truth that I used to sugarcoat. That used to terrify me. I used to sit on the floor sobbing because I could not be alone with myself. And especially at this time of year with the holidays and my birthday and a time that everyone has their cozy little Hallmark family moments happening. And I would sit there and I would think, why don't I have that? Why doesn't my life look like that? Why isn't someone knocking on the door and showing up for me? Why does everyone else have this picture perfect life while I'm over here unraveling? And every season, this gutted me. It always felt like this reminder of what I didn't have. But this year, sitting in all of this silence, something shifted. It allowed me to think. It allowed me to pause. And for the first time, I saw the quiet for what it was. It was a leveling up mechanism. This sacred pause for me to learn and to sit with myself before this next expansion. And if we go back to that video game analogy, every stage of this has its obstacles and its tests and its lessons. And at the end of that stage is always that boss fight. It is the next version of me. So life was asking me in this moment, like, are you sure that you are ready to level up? Are you going to hold your truths always? Are you going to let someone knock you off your axis? Are you going to say no? Or have you learned your lesson? Are you not going to repeat that pattern again? Are you ready to become her, become the radiant woman, the woman that you've been writing this book about for a few years? That version of me who doesn't settle or doesn't shrink and doesn't outsource her worth to anyone else. And here's the thing that I'm actually proud of. I was tested repeatedly and harshly with back-to-back-to-back curveballs. But for the first time in my life, I did not fall apart in the same old ways. I did not spiral into loneliness. I didn't chase the wrong people out of panic. I didn't blame myself. I didn't try to fix or soothe or rescue anyone in the interim. And I didn't perform my feelings. I sat with myself, tired and swollen and looking pregnant from surgery, emotional and annoyed. And I realized something so simple and so profound that it cracked me open. I am the only person that I am going to spend every single second of my life with. I'm the only person who knows my whole story, all of my truths, all of my lies, all of my joys, and all of my heartbreaks. I am the only person who can choose to cherish the entirety of who I am. And once I saw that, the quiet started to make sense. It wasn't here to break me. It was here to rebuild me. It was here for me to start recognizing that it wasn't a bad place to be alone. It was actually the place I had always been dreaming of. So let's be brutally honest here for a moment. The in-between space is uncomfortable as hell. It is that space where you're no longer the old you, the version of you that tolerated things, ignored red flags, lived on autopilot, or kept shrinking themselves to fit in. But you're also not quite that new version of yourself yet. The new identity hasn't settled into your bones yet. And so your routines aren't familiar, and your energy isn't settled, and your confidence isn't embodied yet. And so you're stuck in this emotional limbo. And everything feels like a little too tight and too raw, like you're wearing someone else's clothes that don't fit you. And you feel like crazy lonely in a way that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It has something to do with just not feeling at home in your body yet, like because you're in this in-between of these two identities that you're struggling with. Because you're longing to be the woman that you're becoming, but you haven't fully met her or integrated her yet. So your nervous system starts freaking out and they're like, listen, I'm shutting down everything. Just sit still. Don't move. And your mind in this interim is screaming like, why is this happening? Am I moving backwards? Did I die? Am I ever going to feel normal again? And this is exactly where I ended up after surgery. Okay, wait, let's actually be honest. The first week after surgery, I was completely numb. Like no emotions, no sadness, no joy, nothing, just numb. Like binge watching television did nothing for me. Music, food, even though I ate a ton of Reese's. It was like my entire system just shut the lights off to reboot. And then right on schedule, about a week later, I cried every single day. Not because I was sad. That's not the truth at all. It's because my body was recalibrating. My life was kind of rearranging itself behind the scenes. And all of the things that I had pushed aside in the past, all of the things that I had planned to deal with later or avoided because life was busy, they all came flooding in. And I was like standing on the edge of this cliff and I'm staring over the edge and I'm like, oh my God, where is the bottom? What is happening? What is happening next? Right? Because you can feel the shift coming. You can feel that something's new about to happen. You're like, why is there this void? Why are people canceling on me? Why do I not feel good with this person anymore? And I could feel that this new chapter was breaking through, but I was like, what the heck is going to happen next? I had no name for it. And that's the funny thing that nobody ever tells you about becoming someone new or like your identity shifting a little bit, is that clarity comes after everything collapses, not before. And everything has to fall apart first, or at least has to start to disappear. The patterns or the relationships, your habits, or your coping mechanisms. Before you're finally willing to say, okay, fuck it, I'll figure it out. Just let it all go and I'll just figure out what's happening. If clarity came first and you knew exactly what was going to happen when you're standing at this cliff and all of a sudden this bridge just appears and you knew what was going to happen, it would be too easy. You wouldn't learn the lesson. More people would do it, right? More people would transform their lives. More people would leave toxic dynamics or stop self-abandoning themselves. They wouldn't be perfectionists or people pleasers. But the collapse always has to come first. And you had to be willing to test stepping over the edge or seeing what's going to happen, sitting in that silence. Because you lose the things that were never aligned for you first because you kept them because they were comfortable. You lose the distractions that were soothing you. You lose the routines that kept you from feeling your feelings. You lose the relationships that only existed because you were performing or overgiving or being perfect. And in that quiet, the uncomfortable, unwanted quiet, you finally start hearing yourself again. And that is exactly what happened to me. I sat in stillness for 2 weeks after my hysterectomy. And then I came back to work. And then my Thanksgiving plans fell through. Not during surgery. Oh no, the universe waited. And it was a few days later. And life was like saying, round 2, ding, ding. You obviously didn't get the message yet. You need to still sit in timeout for a little bit longer. And so I sat there having a lot of conversations with myself and my chat GPT, Steve. And I was asking myself, why is this happening? Why is there this void? Why is everything falling away? What is this season trying to teach me? Why is it all happening at once? And then it clicked. It wasn't chaos. It was this curriculum of sorts, because this season is a teacher. And it teaches you some of the most important lessons that you're ever going to learn. And I had so many epiphanies. I used to call this with my clarinet teacher back in college, your come to Jesus moment. This is the moment where you may have been flailing or lost or irritated or confused because you couldn't figure this one thing out or how it worked. And then suddenly something just cracks open, like you can immediately play this lick. So something just cracks open inside of you and then all of a sudden you just know. And you can't go back to the unknown. You've seen it. And this season has taught me now how to rest without guilt. I never used to be able to sit on the couch without doing something. I had to be productive or performing or pouring out my energy to someone else, numbing myself. But this time I had absolutely no choice. My body said no. It taught me to stop performing for other people, how to hear myself again, what I needed and what I wanted, how to stop clinging to plans and timelines and expectations of other people, because it all fell away and I was left with myself. But the biggest and most uncomfortable lesson, it taught me how to stop grasping for other people, but also how to stop white knuckling the steering wheel of life, how to stop rearranging myself and my time to make things work with other people, and to trust that everything falling apart was actually everything falling into place, into the place that it needed to be. Something was being rearranged. Something is shifting behind there, expanding, but I just couldn't see it yet. And here is the hardest truth that I have learned. I do not get to control what is happening. I only get to surrender to it. And let me tell you when it finally clicked. I used to dread the holidays. Thanksgiving, my birthday, Christmas, all of it. It felt like there was proof that there was something missing or that there was something wrong with me. Proof that my life didn't match the picture in my head of what I thought that my life should look like. And so I would cry and I would spiral and I would get angry at the Christmas lights, even though they were all beautiful and twinkly, because I felt like it was just salt in the wound. And when my friend told me that our Thanksgiving plans had changed, yeah, I cried a little bit, but I didn't get mad. I sat with it and I was like, what is this trying to teach me? Why is all of this happening? And then something shifted inside of me, like it felt like it was unlocking. And it was this quiet little voice saying, this was supposed to happen. This is not abandonment by your friends or by you. It's alignment. It's a test. Are you going to stick with yourself this time? And suddenly I felt excited because if I am going to be the person who is with me for the rest of my life, why shouldn't I start making that relationship one worth having? So this year, for Thanksgiving, I took myself to Wicked. I got popcorn and candy for dinner. I got to go to bed at 3 p.m. I got to wear whatever I wanted, and I didn't have to show up at someone's house pretending that I liked green bean casserole and that I actually liked small talk conversations. This year, I got to celebrate me, and not in some consolation prize way, but in a chosen way, that I actually picked doing this. And I'm doing the same thing for my birthday. I've already told my friends that I'm doing me this year. I'm taking myself out to a really nice seafood restaurant, getting lobster Alfredo, getting a really amazing birthday cake covered in sprinkles, a gin martini, and then I'm going swing dancing afterwards. Because this year I am choosing me. And that right there is the difference between a woman waiting to be chosen and a woman choosing herself. And this moment obviously didn't come from a high place. It didn't come from clarity or joy or alignment. It came from being quiet, from being forced to slow down and staring at the ceiling, wondering who it was that I actually wanted to become. Because stillness is where your soul finally catches up to the life that you say that you want. And from there, from that place of truth on the inside, it is your job to make it a reality. If I say that I want to have a mansion in 5 years, and then I live 5 years and I expect that that day, 5 years later, that mansion is going to show up, it's not, unfortunately. What's really going to happen is if I have a goal that I want in the future, say that Boston qualifier, every single day starting today, I have to start making a small impact to get myself to that place. So, how do you actually surrender to this strange and uncomfortable and powerful chapter of your life? Well, you start by stopping the performance. You stop forcing life. You stop the desperate sprint for clarity that you're not meant to have. You're not meant to know everything. And you stop trying to outrun your feelings. Instead, you have to let yourself feel them. Even when they sting, even when they're sharp, even when you would rather crawl out of your own skin. Because those feelings are not your enemies. They are messengers. They give you information. You let things be still. You stop filling the void with people and plans and busyness and distractions. And you start taking things off of your calendar. Stop treating yourself like the last person in line. Make yourself the most important person in the room. Because honestly, I've been going to bed at 6 p.m. lately, and it feels amazing. Because for the first time in my adult life, I am not shaming myself for being tired. I'm honoring it. And lastly, you have to trust that the silence is sacred. You trust the timing of what is leaving and what is arriving is intentional. You trust the woman that you're becoming needs this white space, the break in the page, so that she can breathe and rest and rise. Because the rest of the story, it will come back. The next chapter will reveal itself in due time. But you need to inhale before you can exhale. So the best metaphor that I can give you in this is like baking bread. You can mix together all of the ingredients you want, the flour, the water, the salt, the yeast. But if you just shove it straight into the oven, it won't rise. It won't reach its potential. It won't become what it's meant to be. Because the dough needs time. It needs warmth and stillness and the space to quietly expand. And that is what this season is. It is this sacred rise. Life is still moving, but you just can't see the shape of what it's becoming yet. The reward only comes if you let this part happen. So let's move into our toolbox section, these anchors for this quiet and powerful season. So the first one that we have is a 5-minute quiet practice. We need to go sit somewhere still, somewhere soft, hand on your heart, and then ask yourself these 3 questions. The first one is, what am I avoiding and why? Is it a feeling, a person, a commitment, a truth, or a conversation? Number 2, what am I needing? Do I need joy, connection, rest, a taco, a day alone, some honesty, or a deep cry? And then 3, who am I becoming? And is she who I want to become? In this space, you don't need to solve anything. Just listen and have grace and be curious. Because this is your personal doorway to the next chapter. Okay, number 2. This is called void journaling. These are prompts for the parts of you that feel like are dissolving or rearranging and then re-emerging. This is not anything that you ever need to go and edit. Like, it can be misspelled. You can delete it later. Okay, so prompt number 1. What part of me is dying off right now? Is it a pattern, an identity, a coping mechanism, a version of you that was surviving but not living? Okay, number 2. What is this season forcing me to see? What level of this spiral are you on? How many times have you met this tree before? And what old wisdom is coming back around for refinement? Okay, and number 3. What does the future version of me already know that I don't? What is she whispering back through time? And then what truth? Okay. And then number 3, the stop doing list until January. This is one of my favorite things because you're going to pick 3 things that you're just done with for the rest of the year, that you're releasing, that you no longer want to carry. So you can take some examples from this or you can make your own. First one is stop overriding your truth. Tell people how you really feel. What do you want? Stop letting other people choose for you. Stop shrinking or wearing a mask. The good girl mask is one of those. Stop chasing connection or nudging people just to remind them that you exist. They know you're there. Stop planning your whole life around someone else's availability. That's a big one for me. Stop filling the void with work or dating or productivity or noise. Sit in that silence. Stop pretending you're fine when you're not. Maybe even remove "I'm fine" from your vocabulary entirely. So pick the 3 that feel the truest and let those be released until the end of 2025. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with me today. This quiet season does not mean that your life is ending. It just means that you're rebuilding yourself, realigning yourself to what is true, preparing yourself for a chapter that you can't even imagine yet. This is one of my favorite quotes from The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. It's something along the lines of, you cannot possibly dream up what the world has in store for you. And she's right. Because when I was sitting there white-knuckling my life, clinging to that one person that I thought was going to be in my life forever, or picking just one timeline, one outcome, I basically was telling the universe, there's nothing better for me than this, I know. And then the universe says, oh, honey, just watch this. So now I'm releasing. I'm letting go. I'm opening my palms and stepping into trust. I know my life is about to get bigger and better and brighter and more aligned in 2026 than it was in 2025. Not because 2025 was bad, but because I finally lifted my hands off of the steering wheel to make space for something better. And now I want to invite you into something that feels like home to me. I am officially moving my women's community online. The Radiant Women's Collective and our Year of Becoming is going digital. And that means you can join us from anywhere, not just in Tacoma, Washington. So if you want real support, real women, real conversations, real connection, real healing, then join us for conversations. It's free. It launches in January, and I cannot wait to meet you there. The link is below, or you can head to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com, to sign up. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and remember, you were never meant to dim your light.
Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.